I know what you're thinking, okay? Why should I create a podcast in 2026 when the market is already super, super oversaturated? There's millions of podcasts out there. It seems like everybody and their mother has a podcast. And don't I have to get millions and millions of views to ever monetize my podcast or make a sale from it or do anything that's actually going to help my business through my podcast? Don't I have to blow up overnight? Well, I'm so glad you asked because actually the answer is no. And in this video, I'm going to describe 5 ways that you can actually use a podcast to level up your business strategically, and that doesn't require you blowing up overnight. Let's start first by addressing some of the misconceptions, okay? According to the Frank Agency, podcasts are not dying. They're actually exploding. And recently, monthly listeners globally hit over 584 million. That's insane. That is such a big number. And it's only projected to grow, to continue exploding. And by 2027, actually, they are projecting that there will be over 650 million global monthly listeners. And if that's not enough to convince you of how much listenership is actually on the table for grabs, over half of US adults listen to or watch podcasts monthly, and that's according to the podcast host. I'll link these articles in the show notes if you want to check them out for yourself. These are great resources that prove and show you based off of real data that there is so much potential in the market for podcasts. But also, according to the podcast host linked below, only a fraction of podcasts are actively publishing episodes. And when I say actively publishing, I mean within the last 90 days. So 15% of these millions of podcasts are still creating podcasts. So what that means is the market seems like it's super oversaturated because technically it is, but only 15% of those podcasts are actively publishing. You see what I mean? So now that you see the potential, like these are all potential listeners that could be a part of a growing audience and eventually become clients or customers of yours for your business or your personal brand or whatever audience you're trying to grow. Let's talk about 5 ways that you can then, once you create this podcast, use it strategically to move the needle for your business. Okay, so number 1, your podcast is a networking machine. If you create a podcast where you can invite guests on, right? What you are doing is you are building relationships. You're inviting people into a conversation. You're inviting someone to have a deep conversation that is not about your business necessarily or your product. You're taking all of the sales energy away from it and you're connecting as humans, right? So anyone that you invite onto your podcast as a guest becomes a partner, not an interviewee or a prospect. You're bringing in a human element and you're connecting with them and creating a relationship before a sales conversation even takes place, right? And whatever guest you bring on is then extremely likely to share that episode with their audience, right? So that's natural amplification of your content. So you're networking and on your podcast, you're creating a space where you can do that in a very natural way. And you have the opportunity to also learn from another amazing business person or just human being, period. Even if it doesn't lead to a sales conversion, you're networking. So it's a great networking tool. And number 2, it's a great place for long form content. We all know how social media is, right? It's fast, it's distracting. We scroll through it while we're also multitasking, doing like 10 other things. But podcasts are intimate. You listen to a podcast when you're driving in your car and you're not doing anything else, right? You're just focused on the words, hopefully focused on the road too, but you're focused on the words, right? Maybe you're doing the dishes while you listen to a podcast. Maybe you're going for a run. The point is, it's not the quick scroll of social. You're actually locked in and listening. It's perfect for teaching, context, and building trust, right? So social media is the place for that short form content, but where does all the long form content go? And once you start building a relationship as well, they're going to keep coming back to you if they like what you have to say, obviously. So that long form content isn't bite-sized, it's bond-sized. See what I did there? All right, number 3, podcasts are the ultimate content creation hack, okay? I have been there. I understand how incredibly difficult it can be to come up with creative content for social media again and again and again. Podcasts are the ultimate hack for that because in one podcast episode, you can then pull out up to 100 if you wanted to, different bite-sized clips, depending on how long your episodes are from the episode, if they're good quality clips and they're going to move the needle for you on social media. And it's just done for you. And if you use a tool like Riverside that now has AI built into it, that process becomes even easier for you. It's just going to pull out little snippets for you that you can then share on social. Done. So one podcast episode super easily becomes an Instagram reel, a TikTok, a YouTube short, a LinkedIn carousel, a quote graphic that you can then repurpose a quote you said in the episode into a graphic that you put in Canva and you put it online. You can pull it into your blog posts. You can pull into your Instagram captions. You basically just repurpose the crap out of one episode and it's going to move the needle for you so much with your content. All right, so I've given you 3 of the 5. Now we're going on to number 4. Podcasts build trust and they build authority. So podcasts, unlike social media or websites or other short form, non-video content, they capture your real voice, your personality, and your perspective, which are key elements in trust building. Listeners will choose you for your genuine take or what you have to offer the audience, not just what the algorithm feeds you, right? Someone presses play on your podcast episode, they're going to keep coming back because they like you. They like what you have to say. They have to seek that content out. It's not just being fed to them in an algorithm, right? And again, with that long form content, that gives them a space to really get to know you, to get to know what your values are about. What product are you selling? What value can you offer? Also, according to the Frank Agency, a large percentage of listeners trust what they hear from their favorite podcast hosts. And many report changing behavior after hearing a podcast recommendation. So you're not just posting quick tips, you're staying in someone's ear over time. And when you build that trust, you build influence, which of course helps you build your business. All right, let's wrap it up with number 5, and then I'll get you guys out of here. A podcast is the ultimate sales funnel tool. If you think of it as a sales funnel, right? Top of the funnel is awareness. So the content attracts ears through search, platform, shareable clips, everything that we just talked about. So you're getting eyes and ears onto your content, onto your business. Then as they hang out a little bit longer and they come to the middle of the funnel, right? They keep coming back to the podcast. Then they're there for education and connection. Listeners start tuning in week after week and they start to feel like they know you. Pretty cool, right? You're building a relationship. And then once we get to the bottom of the funnel, this is where offers and conversions can come in for your business. So that's when you can give an introduction to your services or your product. You can do case studies. You can invite clients or customers onto your podcast to talk about their experience with you. Or you could give out invitations to events you're hosting or workshops or offer one-on-one coaching or consulting, whatever your business is. And even if those listeners don't convert immediately, maybe they aren't in need of whatever actual conversion or offer you have for them, they may recommend you later if they like the podcast content that you're posting, right? Then you can even think about the ripple effect, right? One person listens to your podcast, they like it, they recommend it to another friend, then they recommend it to 2 friends, and then you have a guest on and they recommend another guest. And then you start creating this really cool web of networking and relationships and opportunities. And it's just a great way to get better visibility into your business. So to wrap it up, in 2026, I understand why you think the market may be oversaturated, but remember, only 15% of the podcasts out there are actively publishing, which means there are millions and millions of listeners on the table, which means so much opportunity for you to get your voice and your product and your business and your service out there and to reach those ears and eyes. So that's going to lead to networking opportunities, a long form teaching space for you, a content multiplier, saving you so much time creating social media content. It's going to build trust and authority, and it acts as a real funnel tool. Think about one person that you want to talk with this year. Create your podcast, invite them on your podcast, even if you haven't launched yet. Maybe they could be your very first guest. that one conversation might turn into your next business opportunity. Listen, my name is Emily Ledbetter. I am the founder of Ledbetter Marketing, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that having my own podcast has allowed me the opportunity to convert friends to guests to clients, to even the other way around, clients to guests to friends. And it's just been such a cool way to grow my business and get to know other people and network and really create a space that builds trust and authority like we were talking about today. I have a client who recently launched a podcast. She is a leadership coach, and she is using her podcast to give out kind of teasers of, here are some lessons in leadership and what you could expect if we work together. I have another client who uses their podcast to invite their own customers on to talk about their experience, to talk about different verticals in the industry that they're in. There's endless ways that you can use a podcast, but what's for sure is that in 2026, you absolutely need one. It is becoming so common for businesses to have podcasts. However, there is still so much opportunity out there, and I highly, highly recommend that you do it. And if you need help getting started launching your own podcast, you got to hit up Ledbetter Marketing. Okay. We can help you every step of the way, from concepting your idea, thinking about the cover art, the jingle, what microphone should I buy, what software should I use, all the way through actual launch. And then post-launch, we can help you edit your episodes. We can help you schedule them, get them published, help you create social media content to support it. We would absolutely love to be a part of your podcast journey in 2026. Head to www.ledbettermarketing.com or send us a DM on Instagram at Ledbetter Marketing, and we can get the ball rolling, baby. Thank you so much for tuning in to Content Without the Chaos. Be sure to give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening, and share this episode with another friend of yours who really needs to start their own podcast. Presented by Ledbetter Marketing. Better content led with purpose.